Hi, everybody. I'm Audrey Moore with Audrey Helps Actors, and this is episode number 25. Feeling alive, 25. You're an actor, ready to thrive. So, you guys, you have done such a good job with these reviews. We've got so many more that are up. I want to shout out to Sarah Sneak, Penguin Lover 31, Teascrock Christine Little, and Monique C. I believe Monique C. That is the second review that you have posted, girl. I'm about it. So if you have been trying to leave a review, if you have had no success, just know we're just so popular with reviews that sometimes iTunes decides to filter them out because they think shenanigans is occurring. There is no shenanigans occurring. It is that this podcast is valuable to you guys, and you are so appreciative that you are writing these reviews. So I recommend, if you're writing one, shorter-ish is better than giant long novels, and maybe copy and paste it onto like your notes section, submit it. If it doesn't go through, just copy and paste it and resubmit it at another time at your convenience while you're waiting for an audition. You know, that would be nice. So I am talking today to Jeremy Radin. Jeremy Radin is a longtime actor and friend of mine who is phenomenally talented, and he has an attitude problem. He's always had an attitude problem. Like many of you, he loves the acting side, but is sort of arrogant to hostile to ambivalent about the business side of his career. And so we really get into that. So if that's something you or someone you know and love is dealing with, this is going to be a really great episode for you. Just a heads up, we do talk frequently about sort of actions that he can take, and a lot of those actions are specific to him and the resources he has. So if you are a person who listens to these resources and you're like, well, fuck this guy, I just want to shout out to like that you all have resources. You know, the sort of most obvious resource that people point to not having is money and personal connections. And by personal connections, I mean connections in this business to get you farther. And I just want you to know that everybody has assets that other people don't have that they could be using. And so I have a couple of examples to give you some perspective. You know, Ashley, who is on this episode about standing up for yourself on set. Ashley is a very hard worker, and she has a slammin' body, and she is a yogi and has a very powerful and successful yogi practice around town. And she has lit up her Instagram with continual posts about it, and she has a great following. And she uses her work ethic and her assets in a fabulous, delicious body and incredible yogi practice to bump up her presence, her career, and she really gets herself out there. And she, since this episode, has used connections that she thought she sort of didn't have or was hesitant to use, and she has, you know, really been getting successful in the ways in which we had talked about. So, you know, hope to have her back on and we can talk about that. And then the other example is Val Kenchel, who you guys heard on the Falling in Love with the Business side of acting. You know, he didn't have money or connections when he arrived, but he is a dancer and he is German and he has a European passport, right to work legally in Europe. And he used those special things about him to his advantage and knew that being German, that there were certain things that was going to afford him as far as the casting he was going to have. And being a dancer, he's also like a karate ninja, like he's like silly. And so he knew that fight choreography and those sorts of things were really going to be of advantage to him. So he put together a fight reel. He hired people to put that together for him. He shaved his head so he could look more German and more like what we think of when we think of a German person. which is, a Nazi and somebody that's going to be terrible to you. And his casting started filling up. His credits started filling up. So you really have to hone in on what are your assets? What do you have that you can use to your advantage and wield sort of your power to get you ahead? But then you have to do the action. So that's the thing. All the connections and money in the world are nothing if you don't then spend that money or call those people. All right, that's it. I hope you're on your way to an audition. Book it. Book the job. Audrey helps actors because they don't know anything. Hey everybody, I'm Audrey Moore with Audrey Helps Actors, and today we have...
I'm Jeremy Radin.
Jeremy Radin, yay!
Yay.
Soft clap,
Hi,
soft
hi.
clap, soft clap, yay! So Jeremy and I, we've known each other for a really long time, and I recently came over by the request of your students. Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I've been teaching at the Beverly Hills Playhouse for around a year and a half, and one of my students requested that Audrey come in that you come in. You're sitting right here.
That's me. I'm
across
Audrey.
from me. This is Audrey. He requested that you come in because he is a fan of the show.
Yes.
And
little Ethan, right?
Little Ethan. He's great.
He's great.
Yeah, he's really
lovely.
good.
I'm going to have him on too.
You should have Ethan
He
on.
emailed me and was like, in actor panic.
Yeah.
So help me. And I was like,
Yeah.
let's calm down, fam, and I'm going to have you on.
I get so many of those in that class who are in actor panic, and they're all beginners.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to be like, you just need to learn how to act first. Ethan's
know.
really good. Ethan's
tell.
excellent. Over the time I've had students, they'll come to me, what should I do about admin? What should I do about admin?
Right.
And the answer for that level is usually learn how to act.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I would also, it's really hard to communicate to what we call on the podcast, we call them phase one actors.
Yeah.
So these are actors who are just trying to exist.
Yes.
Like in this career, get their footing. They'll work for free. They will pay you to let them act in something. This is that group of people. Mm-hmm. And they're usually starting off already with the understanding that they're grossly behind.
Right.
Right.
Even if they're 20.
Yeah. Even if it doesn't
amazing.
matter.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't matter.
I haven't acted since I was a child.
Right. But that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, when I came to LA, I'd already been acting, but when I came to LA, yeah, and that's what I told your class. I already lost. Maggie
Right.
Gyllenhaal, her parents are producers and casting directors in this business.
Yeah.
And I lost the
Yeah.
game. I lost the war. She had a huge hit when I was in college. So ta-da,
Right.
I lost.
And it is almost like you start out behind if you weren't literally born into it.
That's really true. And so you have to get over it.
Right.
And calm down and start with where you're at.
Yeah.
So after I came and I talked to you, then you did what everyone does when they hear this podcast or they hear me talk, which is they immediately are like, yeah. Oh, so we'll sit down and we'll have a convo and I'll take you out to coffee and blah, blah, blah. And I do this podcast, as I say, so that I don't have to have coffee with 80 people because I was having,
Right.
I'm
Many
literally
coffees.
was having 2 requests a day from people who
Sure.
were like, Audrey, can we just go have? And I was like, I can't go do it. So I decided let's just have it on a podcast so that way people can benefit from our discussion on a
Right.
broader range, which I know that you're not exactly known for being introverted.
No,
So
I'm, and specifically, I think I'm not known for being introverted about my struggle.
no, that's
Various
very true.
struggles, like I have no problem making my issues public.
A meal out of your struggles.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, that's my brand. My brand
That's
is
your
struggle.
brand,
Yeah.
which is really interesting because we are definitely going to talk about that.
Yes.
So you contacted me and recently, and you were like, I've been thinking so much since you came to talk to the class. So tell me what did you reach out to me for in specific?
Well, I think that I have, I've been acting for a long time, and I think that I'm one of those actors like we've talked about, I've been 40 since I was 20.
Right.
And so I'm now starting to age into my casting.
That's right.
And I think I'm not only aging into my casting, I think I'm aging into myself.
Yeah.
And I think for many years, I had a laundry list of things that kept me away from pursuing my career in the way that I would like to. And I think over the last several years, I've like ticked those things off. Gone like, got rid of that. And now I'm kind of in this position where I've cleared a path for myself, and now I'm just left with this thing that I realize that I don't quite know how to do. I think I've never been quite sure about what my approach to it is.
Yes. And so we should just clarify for people listening that you teach what is called an orientation level, which is for beginning level actors. So, and I want to also acknowledge, I think it's brave of you to come on here as a teacher of acting, because I do think there is this stigma that is hard for once people start teaching, that they have to have some sort of like high bar level or facade really about how superhuman they are as teachers and as working actors. And then as the days go by, that they're not booking and cleaning house, there is like an internal shame that happens to a lot of the teachers until finally they really stop the professional pursuit and they're really just teachers who are doing plays, which is fine and all that. And I want to say about that, fine and great. Like I'm all about people just making conscious choices, not default choices based on what is sort of handed to them-ish and then becoming bitter and jaded and handing that off to your students. Let's not do that.
Yeah. And that for me is a huge thing where
you're pushing yourself to encourage them to push themselves.
Right. And I love, and like, I love teaching. I adore teaching,
I'm sure
but
you do.
I'm always going to be an actor.
You are.
And I'll go crazy without it.
Well, and I would say, just for those listening who are not familiar with Jeremy and his work, that Jeremy doesn't need anyone to tell him that he's really good, because that's part of his thing, is he knows he's really good. But he is, and he's not just an actor, he's a poet, he's a playwriting. I'm just a multi-talented guy, born and raised in Los Angeles. Let's give them like a quick, brief little rundown. Born and raised in Los Angeles. We're going to talk a little bit about your dad, and he was the vice president of Panavision. Those of you who don't know what that is, Panavision, if you wanted a camera, you had to go through Panavision. And so at the end of every credit sequence from like 1962
Forever,
on. It's been, you've seen Kodak and then you saw Panavision. That is Jeremy's dad, who has now passed. We'll talk about that. Welcome to the Dead Dads Club.
Hey.
I'm a proud member.
Woo, high five.
Many years strong. And also I want to say that you have worked a lot. You just have, I think, taken these last 5 years. Really, you've stopped. When I stopped studying with you, you had sort of were ending what I felt like was a role. Like you were sort of spending several years sort of on a role, but all co-star jobs. And the thing about co-star jobs, these character jobs. So like these co-stars where there are one or two lines, what was really helpful for them is if the person saying them is already a character.
Right.
Because they make the line inherently interesting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you always brought that.
Yeah, I've played a lot of security guards and a lot of people named Carl.
I know, it's so true. It's so good.
Yeah.
And let's talk about your physical presence. You are
6'3",
6'4", really.
6'4" in boots.
In boots.
6'3", 6'4", and for many years hovering between, I would say, like 250 and 280.
Yes.
So I'm a big dude.
He's a big guy, and if you can't hear his voice, he's got like a resounding voice.
Yeah.
You are a guy who you sing, you've got, a musical theater presence. Like you are not like you and I in class.
Yeah.
Our note was perpetually, you don't need to do that much.
Yeah.
And the thing is that we're both sort of, we're hams.
Yeah.
We're big. We're loud. and we just love acting.
Love acting.
We just love it.
Yep.
We want to eat it up.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's the only thing I like. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, a lot of screaming.
A lot of screaming.
Jumping.
It's a lot of feeling.
Yes.
A lot of jumping and exciting. A lot of gestures. We're both really known for our gesticulations.
Yes. Yeah. It's like my note has been for many years to be like, forget you have a body.
Right.
Like just stand there and don't have a body.
I know. But I will say that for me, putting myself on tape has been helpful in that because I give myself the challenge to not try to make it funny. And it's hard for me.
Yeah.
And then I just do it. And then I watch it back and I'm like, damn, I'm hilarious. and I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because I will do stuff. I'll do auditions and I will swear I am trying to be serious. I am trying to be dramatic. And as you know, like I'm a dramatic actress. Like I'll crush drama.
Yeah.
And still at the end, they're like,
yeah,
great, Audrey. So funny. And I'm like, cool.
Yeah. I've had so many of those. Like I'll do a play or something where like I'll go like, man, that's the best dramatic work I've done in my life. There are 3 comedic moments. And invariably people come to me and be like, you are hilarious.
You're like the funniest
You're so
person.
funny. And I'm like, what play were you watching?
I know. I think that'll...
Thank you. But what play were you watching?
But wait, Jeremy, wait. I have to interrupt you. I have to. Just wait. Stop talking, Jeremy. Stop it.
Help me. I need some help.
And now it's time for listener questions.
I'm so scared.
All right, this question comes to me from somebody that I will not shout out because it's kind of an intense question. We'll just call this person DB. What's up, DB? So DB says, thank you for the service you're doing for your fellow actors. It's extremely generous and appreciated. Okay, then, on to my question. I'm a very proactive actor and generally not afraid to go after and ask for what I want. However, I'm finding my anxiety peaking when I think about doing this particular thing. What's the best way to broach the subject of renegotiating your commission percentage with a manager you love and who loves and completely gets you and is on the same page with you, and there's no reason to leave them, but it's been bugging me that this person takes 15%. Of course, we agreed to this when I decided to go with him. This person's a modest level manager. This person's clients range from recurring guest stars to co-stars, no series regulars, period, yet, period. He's passionate about his clients. He's got good relationships with casting, but he's building. I really like our vibe, but, and this is the big but again, my point is I know / am aware that most managers, the bigger ones, question mark, have been doing 10% for some time. The long story short of it is I admit that I'm actually scared to ask him. In bold, I'm afraid it'll shift our good vibe we have going together. But then I don't want to resent that I'm giving 15%. I would love, and greatly appreciate your POV and advice on this. Many thanks. This is a really tricky one, you guys. To this person, I say, if you're going to renegotiate the percentage in which you are giving to this person, you had better start equaling more money to this person that it is going to cost them more to lose you than it is for them to lose this extra 5%. It is true, 10% is standard. Often people negotiate that to various different terms. I was with a manager for a long time that I was giving 15% to. My general feeling is that if it is a manager asking for 15% and not 10, it is not a particularly reputable person. And that person, when you go and ask to shift it to 10%, that will not go well at all, even a little bit, even sort of. Generally, the word on the street in Los Angeles, if you talk to casting directors about managers in town, it's that unless they're with like a company, like a reputable company that is like a big manager house company, that actor managers are super crazy. That's just like the word on the street. And every time I have a friend who tries to leave a manager or do something like this and negotiate, it ends up in like hundreds of threatening text messages over a period of several days. And really being concerned for their safety. So yay! But you got a few auditions, so it was worth it, right? I think that my advice is to change your attitude on it and know that giving them 15% if you're a developmental client is maybe a way to angle it so that you feel better. Taking a larger percentage from a developmental client who is only maybe getting some co-star credits, they're then really only taking like $100 from you for each job. If you are starting to get into the, heavy top of show guest star range, and so you're looking at giving out like $1,000 to that person if it's 10%, and then $1,500 if it's 15%, then depending on how many you might have of that, that might be worth you renegotiating, because they'd be scared to lose you because they've invested in you. And now it's worth their time and money to keep you at 10% than it is to lose you because you want 10% and they want 15%. Otherwise, I suggest leaving and finding somebody new, which I know can be really hard. And I especially say to you, listening, you person that wrote me this question, do you have an agent? If you don't have an agent, you need to get your manager to get you an agent. And in getting you an agent, it'll be less scary for you to worry about losing this manager because they won't be your only lifeline to auditions. I know that's really hard, but if it were me and I only had some co-stars, but was excited about those co-stars, but only had like a few co-stars, I would stay with them and I would convince myself that them getting 15% of my almost no money that I'm giving them already is worth it because they're essentially working for free while they build up my career. That's what I would do. But if I had a little bit more than that and I was pulling in 3 or 4 top of show guest stars a year, then maybe I would have a conversation with them. Now, if you guys have an agent or a manager out there who is taking more than 15%, I just want to be so clear with you right now. That person is a crook. Hate to tell you, you tell them that they can go fuck themselves and you go and get better representation. But go and get better representation first and then tell them that they can go fuck themselves. All right, you guys. Love you.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
You have had a successful career. You've got your SAG card probably at what, 18?
Yeah, around there, yeah.
Around 18.
Yeah, some early.
You have had a slew of agents and managers of various types and sources.
Yeah.
And you've always had, to my knowledge, a pretty high booking ratio. That
right.
When you went in, you generally booked. And just as an example, he was always really grumpy about the fact that he never auditioned for commercials. And then he got like 1 commercial audition and he booked it.
Yeah.
So that's who he is, which is both his superpower and I would say his kryptonite, which we'll get into. And so any of you listening who have an attitude problem that really is about doing the work that you need to do to get the work, this is the podcast for you. And Jeremy is a great example of this. And many of you are people who've had a lot of success out the gate. And so when that momentum isn't as easy anymore, you get lazy and apathetic because you always could be kind of lazy and apathetic because it came to you. And many of you are either such great actors, sort of born and raised in LA in a way that you got started young enough where there wasn't really anyone in your category, or you're so beautiful that people were scooping you up, but then you get to a certain level where everyone in your level is beautiful and talented, and then it becomes hard. So you texted me, so let's talk about how can I help you?
Yeah. It's interesting. I think where I'm at right now is like the way the industry is changing.
Yes.
I do feel like I'm in a bit of a re-entry phase.
Yes.
I had a good run, like as you're saying, for a while. Like I
For
booked
10 years, you had like pretty solid run.
Yeah, I booked
feel
like 16 co-stars on my resume. A couple of them went recurring. I booked a supporting part on a pilot that didn't go, but
Yes.
and that was like a Genji Kohan directed by Paul Feig thing.
Great.
And that was years ago.
Yeah.
And then a couple of things happened. I mean, like there's personal stuff.
Yeah, there's personal stuff.
We'll get into all that in terms of my dad, and then in terms of like stuff about disordered eating, like that I had to go deal with, and then now I feel like a couple of things have happened, which is my casting has changed.
Yes.
I feel like I've finally entered into what my casting is gonna be for a long time.
Yes.
The hardest thing about this has always been, how do I approach admin? I was a terrible student in high school.
So let's talk about what
like,
admin is first of all.
Oh yeah, admin. That's
so
right.
why don't you define that?
So admin is short for administration. How do you administrate your career?
It's the business side of your career. It's
Yeah.
the shorthand for, there's the acting, which is the thing you sign up for, and then there's what's called the administration or the business side, which is just for some perspective, because I think it's helpful to people. This is not just our profession.
Right.
I've been talking a lot about it to a lot of people, and it's like when you sign up to be a therapist, then you become the person who has to handle your schedule in the beginning, and you have to handle your finances, and you have to handle insurance companies. You do your own bookkeeping, and that is not what you sign up for when you decide to be a therapist. You sign up to help people.
Yeah.
When you are a teacher, you want to teach people, but then a lot of your time is spent reading bad essays and grading papers and dealing with administrations and going through school meetings with the staff. And then you have to be on school duty where you make sure people aren't skipping school. And even on top of that, for teachers, you're dealing with kids' home lives and whether or not you have to report families. A lot of actors feel a little bit victimized because you just want to do the acting and you're the artist. And there's a tendency for actors, because of who we are, to be very self-absorbed and not have the awareness that that's not just our profession.
Right.
That's most professions in the starting out level.
Yeah.
Until you're making enough money that you can therefore have what's called the staff. And then you are paying out that staff to do that work for you, because your time has become more valuable than the cost of doing that work yourself.
Right. I think of it weirdly like being an Olympic ski jumper.
Yes.
Because when I was watching, I think a couple of years of the Winter Olympics, and if you're an Olympic ski jumper who makes it to the final round,
Yes.
you're in the air jumping for maybe a total of 40 seconds,
Yes.
maybe a minute.
Yes.
And then everything else is prep for that 40 seconds.
I just want to hallelujah to that, because as you know, I'm always comparing Los Angeles to the Olympics. I'm always saying Los Angeles is the Olympics of acting, you guys. And just to qualify for the Olympics, you already have to be incredible.
Yeah.
Like being an incredible actor is already like base one to
Right.
qualify for the Olympics.
Yeah.
Then to win the Olympics is a whole nother game, right?
Yeah. It's all about training and time.
Time and also staff.
Yeah.
It's
Who's
a lot
helping
about
you?
who's helping you, who's training you,
Yeah.
who is pushing you. It's a lot about finances. You have to have people who are sponsoring you,
Right.
which is another group of people that are pushing you on products and pushing you on marketing and advertising so that you can pay for all of this Olympic dream.
Yeah.
It's like all goes into it. Does
Yeah.
that make sense to you?
Totally. And then the difficulty in starting out being an actor is that those people are not going to come sponsor you.
They don't care about you.
They don't care about you.
They don't
And you have
care-
to be your own staff.
And that's what I'm saying. But that's also true when you're starting out as an Olympic athlete.
Totally.
But you're starting out at 4.
Yeah.
And so then by the time you are actually able, like qualifying, you've already proven yourself, which is what we were saying about a lot of actors here. When you start out the womb, second generation parent actors, right?
Yeah.
You've already got that advantage of that staff.
Yeah. Where I'm at right now is I'm looking to, like you say, step back into this world.
Yes.
To step back into auditioning. I think I've had 2 auditions this year.
Yes.
to step back into it in a different casting.
Yes.
More adult parts, you know, I can
Yes.
put on a suit now and not look like I'm like a large child going to a funeral.
Right.
But my difficulty is that I am not good at the business side of it.
Well, that's really good. Let's just start with that statement.
Yeah.
I am not good with the business part of it is a lie that you are telling yourself.
Right.
And it is not true.
Yeah.
Because what does it mean to be good at the business side of it except to figure out how you best work that for you?
Mm-hmm.
So what you're actually saying to me is I haven't put in the hours to learn the ways in which I best get seen to be hired.
Right.
That's really what you're saying.
Yeah, definitely.
And so any of you out there who have the mantra, I'm not good at the business side of it, that's a lie that you are using to hold yourself back. And I want to say you have been acting since you were like 7, like me, right? And you put in multitude of hours in the talent part.
Right.
How many hours have you put in to figuring out not just the way that you get opportunities to be seen to then be paid for your work, but a way that you enjoy it?
Like very few.
That's right. And
Right.
do you think that if you put in 1/10 of the hours on the administration business side of acting for you, as you have into any of your brilliant art forms, whether that's poetry, whether that's acting, whether that's musical theater, do you think that you would get momentum fast?
Yeah, I do.
I agree.
Yeah.
So what you're really coming to me to say is, Audrey, and this is many of you, I haven't figured out the way for me to love the business pursuit as much as I love the acting pursuit. And what I want to say to you, which is what I want to say to everyone, some of you are really great students. Like you love being a student, like you love your straight A's and you love like teacher says, I do this, so I do this. And some of you are rebel students. And some of you teacher says do this and you're like, I want you to go fuck yourself.
Right.
Okay. And some of you are even a little more ambivalent than that. Some of you are like Jeremy, where teacher says do this and you're a little bit more like, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're of the like, I'm a great student category, then probably you're doing a lot of work to make yourself feel better, which is what I was doing, but it's not focused, impinging work with the trial and error attention to get results. And if you're ambivalent, you haven't even tried. And if you're a rebel, then you have something about you that makes you having to do the work to get successful shitty for you. And that's probably some judgment you've had on people who are like me, who are type A people,
Right.
getting things done. And you think like, well, sure, if I wanted to like get work done, then I could work.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, that's correct.
Right. And I think I fall somewhere in between I've never been straight A guy.
No, right.
Like
no,
never,
but you're
never.
a good student.
I'm a good student.
You are a good student.
When I like the thing I'm learning,
Right.
I'm compliant.
And that is so important because
Yeah.
I am watching so much of so many people who are posting their things online and they're posting these shorts and they're posting this stuff. And what it looks like to me when I watch a lot of them is that people are bored and also flailing. And they want to work, but they don't know how to do it. And so they're like, let's just make this thing.
Yeah.
But what that actually is for most of them, because some of you, so I don't want to make it general, some of you are really going to become writers, creators, producers. And so for some of you, it's a really great tool. But for a lot of you, you're just spinning wheels to make you feel like you're doing something when the thing that you actually need to do is something that probably is going to make you a little angry and a little annoyed and a little frustrated in the beginning because you're not good at it.
And it's funny you mentioned making stuff, because I was never going to do that thing of
I
like,
know. You
I'm
were
never,
so adamant about it.
oh, never. I just
Yeah.
I just want to act other people. And then
I used to be that way too, just so
Yeah.
everyone knows.
but then something shifted where I started to enjoy writing.
Right.
And then those, like I just shot one yesterday
Yes.
and directed and acted in, but it was about it's a story that I'm intent on telling that eventually is going to be a full-length play. And it isn't that thing of like, I'm just shooting for the sake of shooting, for the
Right.
sake
You
of
have
busy,
like
busy,
the
busy.
focused
Right.
passion about
I'm
it.
trying
And
to have that. And that I think is going to be a part of my way in.
I think that's great. I mean, part of growing up and figuring out your way into this business is learning the things that you can do that other people can't
Right.
in a positive way. And I tell people, I always compare it to shopping, and that like not everyone can wear a really long maxi dress.
Right.
For those of you who don't know what a maxi dress, it just means like to the floor. I, Audrey Moore, rock a maxi dress, but it's because I'm really tall.
Right.
Now, other girls can wear those like weird things that go out on the hips, peplums.
Yeah. Yeah.
My hips are giant. I don't need a peplum to make my hips stand out. So I cannot wear those, right? And that's the similar thing to administration. So I, Audrey Moore, am a really great producer, meaning I get things done. I'm incredible at getting
Yeah.
things done. And I'm also incredible at exciting other people to get things done. So that is something that I use to my advantage in the business administrative side of my work. And something that I had to get better at was at spending money at my business side, because I grew up very poor. I'm from one of the poorest states in the country, and I was always used to working many jobs for no money. And I've had to change my point of view to I work less jobs for lots of money. And that is something I've really had to get better at, that I was bad at. And so whenever you're bad at something, it sucks at first.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Especially when you come into it after having mastered a thing like,
Yeah, you're already incredible at these things. I mean, I have so many people
Yeah.
who say, I'm such a great actor.
Yeah, then
so
being in
this part
beginner
pisses
mind.
me off.
Right.
And I used to be like that with auditions. I would do all this acting.
Yeah.
And, you know, Jeremy can tell you, everyone was always like, oh, Audrey, like, only a matter of time for you.
Yeah.
And then I would audition and just fall apart. I was just so bad at it. I have a theory about you. Which is what we talked about when we first started talking, which is that your identity is wrapped up in your struggle, which you know.
right.
And you're so capable. And actually, things come so easy to you that if you were actually to become the creative success that you are capable of, it would cost you a lot of your identity.
I do think that is a huge part of it. And, you know, like we're getting into it.
Right.
I just finished this like course of treatment on this binge eating disorder that I've had for a long time. And I like to like talk about it.
Yeah.
Part of that course of treatment in the various therapies was identifying the myths that I tell myself about myself
Right.
and exhuming myself from those
Right.
myths.
Right.
And my myth has always been about like
Let's maybe say was.
was. So my myth was there were several.
Yes.
There was the myth of I can't do it.
Yes.
I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
I think the biggest was, and weirdly, this is in Alan, who is my acting teacher, just wrote a book, and I'm like in the book for this conversation we had, where I said something like, I'm both a victim and I have a big ego.
Yes.
So I have this thing of like I can't do what I need to do, and I also think I shouldn't have to.
Yes, but knock it off.
Right. And that's what the last 5 years have been about, is about like slowly knocking it off.
And I would say
You know.
also that's part of growing up is
Right.
learning that you have behaviors that are really just reactionary, like 5-year-old behaviors.
Yeah.
But you're not 5 anymore.
No.
You're the adult now.
Yeah.
And you get to make the adult decisions, not the reactionary 5-year-old decisions.
Right.
But that takes a lot of self-awareness.
It does, which is, I think, the thing that I've like been accruing now for quite some time.
But here's what I say is you've always been accruing that.
Sure.
And so part of my hesitancy to meet with you ever is always like, like Jeremy and I can sit down and he'll have like lots of profound experiences.
Right.
And then nothing will change.
Yeah.
And I sort of kind of feel like, well, fuck that. And so my hope for you is that what you can see is you're missing out on incredible work.
Yeah.
And the role in Mindhunter is incredible work. And what I want to say to you, you're going to have like the most fun you've ever had in your life.
Yeah.
That when you start working with other Olympic athletes, I can't even tell you guys. Because I always wanted that, like, but I didn't know how to really say it because I would just like act with my friends in class, and anyone who knows Jeremy and I are our closest friends, like they're the best, like they're so incredible. And I would just think like, I just want to act with them and just get paid a bunch of money to like act with like these incredible people who are like the best of what they do. But then when you level up yourself into the professional game, you're now not only working with the top actors, you're working with the people who love it enough and have the grit and have the passion to withstand all of the years of bullshit that you have to slug through just to become a consistent working actor.
Yeah.
And then you get to play with those people, and not only those actors, but those writers who've managed it, those directors who've managed it. And I just want you to know it's magic.
Yeah.
You know how much you love it?
Yeah.
I want you to be around people who love it as much or more than you do.
I had a moment this year where I was thinking about moving. I was like, I'm going to move to Oregon.
Oh, yeah. Everyone's moving to Oregon, you guys.
Because, oh, God, the weather.
Oregon.
I'm 33 years in LA. I never need to see the sun again.
Time to buy real estate in Oregon, you guys.
Yeah, right? But I had the thought of if I leave here and move without knowing the rest of my life that I never pursued it in the way that I could have, I would very rapidly begin some sort of crazy decline.
That's right.
Like a mental.
I know.
Yeah, it would be
I'm
anguish.
the same way.
And I think part of what this is, and part of what it is for me, is like a story and a narrative like that you make up about yourself becomes an addiction. It becomes something that you get addicted to.
It does.
And it comes with this set of problems.
Yes.
And then I think you got to hit a bottom sometimes and be like, man, I am so sick of these problems.
Yes.
And what you start to crave is not, or at least in my experience, it isn't that I'm like craving success and fame.
I can tell
I'm
that
craving the next set of problems.
Yes.
I want the next set of problems.
Very good. So let's talk about actual things that you can
that I can do. Great. Yeah.
But wait, Jeremy, wait. I have to interrupt you. I have to. Just wait. Stop talking, Jeremy. Stop it.
And now it's time for the new show rundown.
All right, you guys, I'm not going to go run down a specific show for you right now, but what I am going to do is be telling you what you should be doing right now during pilot season if, in fact, you are not auditioning for the storm of pilots that you believe that you have a rightful heir to. So I want you guys to be spending your day on Deadline. Go to deadline.com. And you're going to look and research the pilots that are coming up all day that have been cast. So about every hour, maybe to 2 hours, there is a new notice on Deadline about what pilots are being bought, what pilots that maybe were bought are now being pushed back to another season. Meaning they're not going to try and cast it in pilot season. They're going to do it like mid-season, which is like they'll try and do it during the summer or, August. And then they will tell you who the writers are, which directors have been picked to be directing each of these pilots. And then they will tell you which pilots have been cast by which actors. It's like real time. It's fast. It's really great. Because I want you to start seeing who is getting these pilots. which directors are getting them, what is the tone of them. If you can't get a hold of scripts, you should be looking at who is who and doing what. And you can just start seeing these actors and then Google the crap out of these actors who are booking these pilots. What did they have that helped them get the representation, that got them the opportunity, that got them into this audition? And if it sounds like a kind of show that you would be right for, you need to research that show. You need to make note of it, see if you can find the script for it, ask people for the script, research online, read it, and then you're ahead of the game, because what everyone does is they wait until like This Is Us is a super hit, and then you're like, I got to get on This Is Us. But if you know ahead of time that This Is Us is going to be a hit, and you can get in those first 5 episodes before it airs, and then you have This Is Us as a credit on your resume, then that can give you a stronger bump as far as Hollywood is concerned, as far as the show business is concerned, New York, wherever. And that can be a sort of stronger credit on your resume than something that you do that's really great, but nobody's ever heard of and nobody cares. Okay? So deadline. Be on deadline all day long. Be researching, Googling. If you can find these actors' reels, if you can find who their reps are, just become obsessive stalkers about who are the people that are getting pilots. Because you, in fact, want to be a person who gets a series. So maybe you should know what people are doing that works for them. All right, you guys, go book it. Research it and get ready for the pilot. Book it.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
I want you to contact every single person that can help you that loved your father.
Great.
And I want you to say, really wanting to work professionally, make some serious cash, whatever you want to say. I'm looking, these last few years because you guys just don't know. His dad had like a heart attack, was like without oxygen for like 40 minutes and then came out of it, but you were like having to help him.
Yeah, a brain
and
injury.
then like a year and a half later he passed. Like you've really
5 years.
It was 5 years later.
He had a heart attack
and
in
see,
2012.
those were the 5 years that you were out.
Yeah.
And so he really had legitimate family stuff.
Yeah.
And I think for you to reach out to them and say, I've mourned, I'm grown up, I am all these things, help me. Help me.
Yeah.
Use the example of like Mindhunter and say like, this was a part I should have auditioned for.
Yeah.
And I didn't even audition for it. And had I may have booked it.
Yeah.
And I want to be on that creative level. And if you reach out to 10 of them, I am telling you, Jeremy, those people want to help you.
Yeah.
Then I want you to use whatever connections you have to get a quality current reel. And I mean a reel. I want your standards to be as high as they are with poetry with it. I want you to hand it to me and have me go, wow, Jeremy, this is incredible. I want it to be work that you are so proud of. And I want 0 theater in it. I don't want any plays. I want it to be all of the essence of things that you can be cast in now, today, in television, in limited series, in the internet, because few people have the talent capacity that you have. And I want that to show. And even if you took a year from now to really nail that, if you nailed that, you will be working nonstop in no time.
Definitely the next thing. I think because I just changed my hair, I do want new headshots.
You just like lost a little bit of hair, you guys.
Yeah.
You're just fine, but it looks great on you.
I'm
You've
so
gone
happy.
gray in the
Character
beard,
actor,
which is
heaven.
great. Love it.
And now going like, I can write all that.
Great. I want you to write all that.
Yeah. And that is the next goal.
And then let's talk representation.
Yeah. I just had a
meeting.
I just had a meeting today.
Great. Can I give you the life I want you to have as far as auditions is concerned?
Totally.
I want at least one guest star to guest recurring to series regular audition for you a week.
I would love that.
I want that for you.
Yeah.
And you are more than qualified for that.
Yeah.
And you're more than capable of having that.
Yeah.
And that's actually going to be really easy for you.
Okay.
You're just going to have to do the work to get there.
I'm
and here's what I
am,
finally want to say to you also about about administration and the business side. And I keep trying to tell you guys this, and I think you can't know it until you experience it yourself. But I want you to know that there is a creative aspect to the pursuit of jobs that is just like the creative aspect to figuring out a scene, to figure out the writing, to writing a poem.
Yeah.
You have like problem. How do I get seen by those casting directors? How do I create the solution and the experience that will then get me those jobs? And there is a creative process that is just as delicious and as exciting as the actual learning the role, finding the clothes, getting the right hair, like all of it becomes part of the work.
I've not yet found my avenue into the creativity of administration.
Of course, and most
Right.
people haven't. And
Right.
I just want you guys to know, and you to know, Jeremy,
Yeah.
that's just a matter of practice.
Right. That's I think the issue is like I've so far outpaced myself.
Right.
The acting has so far outpaced this other thing that when I approach the administration,
The
I'm
part.
so frustrated that I'm like, I just want that to be where
Be
my
as easy as
acting
that.
is.
And I can only say I
Yeah.
so relate. And also I really relate with auditions. And what I said to myself, which is proven true, if I can be 1/10 as good at auditioning as I am at acting, I mean, gloves are off. Like,
Yeah.
sky's the limit for me.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't even trying to get it as good at auditioning as I was at acting.
Right.
I just needed to get 1/10 as good.
Yeah.
And I'm better than 1/10.
Yeah.
And so my numbers are really good.
Right. And I don't know how my auditioning is because I've
You
done
haven't
it
done it.
4 times in 2 years or something like
and
that.
so that's another thing I want you to do. And I want you to just start filming things.
Yeah.
And the reason is Thursday night, I get late at night an audition for a series regular role with the vice president of casting at Fox for a Ryan Murphy pilot because I was in feud and I'm sure Ryan Murphy requested me. Now, on top of which, the entire sides is a monologue because it's all voiceover. It's a 5-page monologue with the vice president of casting.
Jesus.
Then, of course, I get another guest star audition for that day and a commercial callback for that day.
Wow.
Also, I wake up on Friday, I'm like feeling good. Okay, I'm ready, I'm okay. Jesse's grandfather has a heart attack, is now in the hospital on Friday morning. Okay. And I fucking crushed it.
Yeah.
I did a great job. I didn't hear, but that was okay. I didn't think the part was right for me. But I learned those 5 pages monologue, and I did great work. I did great work on all of this stuff. I was ready for the opportunity.
But that's the day you want.
That's the day you want.
Yeah.
And that's the Olympics.
Right. And that is.
That's
and
an Olympic athlete.
That's an Olympic athlete. And especially when you're dealing with, I mean, what's the first thing you learn about any major Olympic athlete? The minute that they can tell you what incredible traumas they've been through
Yes.
while still performing. That's
Right.
like, that's the story.
That's the story.
That's always the thing.
That's
it's
right.
like, here's all the human interest stuff we can tell you about
right.
this athlete who's doing this anyway.
Right. So I need you to
Yeah.
start putting yourself on tape.
Yeah. I would love that. I mean,
That's what I want for you.
Yeah. That's my dream is to be like, overwhelm me with auditions.
Overwhelm me with acting.
Yeah. That's,
Just
you
give
know,
me so many opportunities. I don't know what to do with it.
it's like that, the Philip Seymour Hoffman thing where he said, anytime you get to act is a gift.
Great.
And like, that's
right.
That's what I want. I want to be like, give me audition after audition after audition. And like you said, like my ratio's been good.
Your ratio is great. I'm
know?
not worried about you booking.
Yeah.
And neither are you. So it's
Right.
never been about whether or not you're going to book.
It's about working.
It's about doing the work, which is about you
To
being
get more
actually ready to be successful.
Right.
An attitude problem.
Right.
So I want to also address this situation, which I'm very conscious of. And I want you to know that I want everyone to just be aware of people who are getting from you an investment.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are teaching, then all those hours that you've put into the work, guess who gets the benefit of those hours?
Yeah. My students.
The school.
Yeah. The school. Yeah.
the school is getting the benefit of those hours.
Right.
Also the students, but the school.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And I had to come to a really particular point in my life where I decided Audrey benefits from Audrey.
Yeah.
And I remember very specifically Milton talking to you about why you were living with your dad.
Mm-hmm.
And he said to you that the person who was benefiting was really your dad. Because your dad didn't want to be alone.
Right.
And your dad didn't want you living somewhere else.
Right.
Your dad wanted you with him.
Mm-hmm.
And you were like, oh, I'm still living with my dad. Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, no, if your dad didn't want you to, you wouldn't be. And I see the exact same thing happening with you at school.
Yeah.
And I just want you to be conscious of it. And that doesn't mean anything about the school, because I don't blame them. I would want you teaching acting.
Yeah.
I would want you in all of my plays. I would want you to do everything. But I just want you to be aware of it.
Yeah.
Because you're worth a lot.
Yeah.
You're very valuable.
Yeah.
And I want you to value from your valuable.
Right.
Is
And
that
I
the right way to say
appreciate
it?
that. Yes.
I want you to
value
reap
from
the I want you to reap the benefits of your value, not somebody else.
And I want that too.
Okay,
and I, you know, and it's a school to which I'm very obviously
Me
loyal
too.
and
Love it.
like
Yes.
and like my
Absolutely.
life. You know, like I
Send them
was,
all the students and earn all of the awards.
And I want to be
send
like
people there.
my dream would be like to be like a tambor.
Yeah, be like Jeffrey Tambor. Me
and
too.
like act and then go teach and then act
Love
and go
it.
teach.
Me
But
too.
no, that is a thing that I do, and specifically where I have been giving my work away for a long time.
I know.
Trying,
Which is true for a lot of you.
Yeah, anybody out there who does that thing of like
You give your work away for free.
for free. I don't get paid.
I mean, I see you guys in place and I'm like,
Yeah.
you guys are working really hard
Yeah.
for no money.
Nothing.
And not even really
Giving
to get
a
seen.
lot of time and
and
not getting
energy
paid.
and talent and hours compounded by all of the hours you spent training already.
Right.
Okay. Do you want to plug yourself social media wise? I hear Jeremy's hilarious on Twitter, though I don't tweet because it's too exhausting to me. But I am on Instagram and Facebook. So do you want to tell people where they can find you?
Sure. You can find me at Twitter and Instagram at Jeremy. That's Germy Radin, Radin. That's at Jeremy Radin on Instagram and Twitter.
Great. And any shows or performances coming up? Anywhere they can find your book, your poetry?
Yeah, I've got a book of poems out, a new book of poems called Dear Sal, out on a press called Not a Cult Media.
Why acting?
Well, when I was 13, I was a very troubled, angry, sad kid. And my mom signed me up. One summer, she just got fed up, and she's like, I don't know what to do with you. I'm going to sign you up for a musical theater program. And she signed me up, and it was Bye Bye Birdie, and I auditioned for Mr. McAfee, the dad, and they did the auditions in front of everybody, all the kids, you know. So I'm 13, and I said the first line of the audition, and everybody laughed, and I was like, I found it. It was like, it was like,
everyone like in elementary school or junior high and getting just a
Yeah.
taste of validation and you're hooked.
it was like the come to Jesus moment. But what I've come to learn about why I love acting is weirdly through, it actually happened through doing poetry as well, which is I realized that I'm an actor because I love to be of service to a story and to a person's story. And it feels like an act of service. I remember when I started acting, I would try to filter my story into the story that was being told. And then I realized that that's what poetry was for. And so that freed me up in the acting to just be of service to the story. And so that's why now I think I love it. Also, there's what's that woman who wrote Bird by Bird, Anne Lamott or whatever? Somebody asked her why writing, and she goes, because I like it and I'm good at it.
Yeah.
And she's like, that's enough. And I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
I dig that, man.
It is.
I like that.
I feel that way. Yeah. What is the best part about the business for you?
Well, I think for me, it becomes about community. You know, my career concept thing has really shifted from all these clever whatever ideas to being just be better today than I was yesterday. And the way that I'm going to be better today than I was yesterday is by working with people who are better than me. And I think the best part of this business is that this is where the people who are great
Yes.
end up, and I want to know them and meet them and party with them
Yes.
and play with them and have a great time with them. So I think community would be the thing. Yeah.
That's great. And what is the worst part about this business for you?
I mean, that's a huge,
Okay.
I would say that they're the people who use storytelling in order to get a different need met that has nothing to do with storytelling.
Like what?
I think a lot about like the Harvey Weinstein thing.
Yeah.
The
Perverts.
people in this perverts.
Yeah.
The people in this business who take advantage of people's love of story and storytelling in order to like
Pursue their own weird agenda.
their own weird agenda.
It's definitely here. It's a lot in this town.
A lot. And I also think that there's a thing in this industry that bothers me is that you're constantly swung between like incredible optimism and incredible pessimism.
Yeah.
And there's not much of a middle ground of like, hey, we're just trudging along doing our work. It's either like abundance, #blessed, everything is great, perfect, wonderful. And then other people being like, you're never going to work again.
Yeah, I mean,
Never an
that's
audition.
part of the Olympic athlete. Part of it, to me, is the mindset.
Yeah.
Is being emotionally strong and practiced enough that neither one knocks you too hard for too long.
Right. Exactly.
Not that you can't be knocked down, and not that you can't be swung up,
Yeah.
but that you were grounded through all of it.
Right. It makes me think of that what we think success looks like graph.
Yes, right.
Which is just a
line,
steady line
yeah.
up, and what it actually looks like, which is just this
It's like,
crazy ass
yeah.
squiggle with an upward trend.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that there's like the part of me that is just the little worker person who trudges along as these incredible highs and lows happen around him.
Yep.
So much of this business wants you to think that the highs and lows are the real experience, but it is the trudging through them that is the real experience.
I wouldn't even say the trudging. To me, it is all the experience.
Mm-hmm.
It is all the experience.
Right. And then there is
trudging.
It's that
and
forward.
then there is floating.
Yeah.
But what I tell people in the podcast is it's all the career.
Right.
All of
it's
it is
all
the
of
career.
it. But like the thing for me that is at the base of it is just that movement forward.
Yeah.
And how whatever form that movement takes.
Yep.
Floating, trudging,
Right. It's the
crawling,
movement forward.
flying. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great.
And those brief momentary things, whatever they are, end up being the things that I feel like we ask to define our careers and our lives. But I think it is the movement through it that is what it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What do you wish somebody had taught you or managed to get you to understand when you were just a wee babe entering this business?
I wish somebody had gotten me to understand that it wasn't going to be all acting.
That it's a business.
That it's a business.
That's what most people say.
I think that one of the best things I've heard was an old acting teacher said, he's like, instead of telling people to go to college for acting, he's like, take an outside acting class and then take business in college.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think that would have been
Super
great.
helpful.
Yeah.
I agree. We do a mildly interesting section. Anything mildly interesting?
About me?
Anything. It can be about anything. It can be something you like, something you read, something you watch, something you know.
I'm reading this book right now. I read a lot.
Yes.
I think that's like weirdly become a huge part of my admin.
Good.
And I'm reading this book right now called The Ghosts of Birds by Eliot Weinberger.
Cool.
And there's a section, and there are these little weird like micro essays, and there's a section in there about cities. You know, there are two different kinds of sort of these megalopolises. And there are cities that are laid out in a grid pattern. And then there are cities that are like full of alleys and confusing, and the streets are like windy and twisty. And the reason for that, this I thought was such an interesting fact, was the cities laid out in grid patterns are built because the builders of those cities feel them to be impregnable and in no risk of being attacked by enemies or being overthrown or whatever. And the cities that are twisty are more at risk. So an opposing army may enter that city and have a better chance of getting lost
Oh, interesting.
than in a grid city.
Oh, interesting.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm trying to figure out how to
Use
apply
that.
that to
Yeah,
like as a
right.
metaphor for the work, but I don't know that
It hasn't happened yet.
Not yet.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Jeremy. I
Thank
so appreciate
you.
it. I just
Yeah.
want to end telling all of you guys that if you judge Jeremy while you're listening to this because of his connections and not using his connections, I really want you to take a look at yourself and just know. And if you're one of those people who's like, well, sure, I mean, he's got all of that stuff, but like I've got nothing. It's really easy to count somebody else's experience as not being applicable to you. And so if you listen to this and you feel hella judgy, I just want you to know that says more about you than it does about the podcast. And I really encourage you to look inward and see what advantages that you have. So, love you all. Thanks, Jeremy.
Thanks.
Okay. Next week on Audrey Helps Actors. I don't know. I haven't decided. It's going to be a surprise. Yay, surprise. Special thanks this week to Jeremy Radin. This show is produced and edited by Jesse Lumen. Oh, he's so handsome. Special thanks to Thomas Snodgrass for the mic assistance here and there. He's so generous with his mic. It's good to have your sound guy across the street, you guys. And thanks to Aalok Mehta for some help with the theme song. Music this week and every week by Ari De Niro. And most importantly, don't forget your towel.